here.
That is big-time news to me. He does not seem like the type to spend any time in Vegas, let alone Super Bowl Sunday. Does he throw down on some big dollars?
Oh, yeah, he does.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Although he takes a lot of long shot bets, and believe it or not, he wins on them.
Really?
Yeah, I'm willing to bet yesterday he bet on Denver.
I bet on Denver, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and he probably did it in style. So we'll find that out tomorrow when he...
Does he go for like the obscure bets, like how many times Omaha was said during the game, or if Cam Newton was going to cry or not?
I believe so. Yeah.
What color the Gatorade might be?
I think he bet on the over/under as far as how long Cam Newton would stay in there for the press conference. So I think he actually won on that one. Yeah. So
good man.
Yeah,
good man.
Yeah, good for him. We've got an exciting show and an action-packed show, and the reason I say action-packed show is tonight we brought back Mark Sargent. You may say, that name sounds familiar. Well, we just had him on Thursday, and we talked about the flat earth theory. And we'll be talking about the flat earth theory yet again tonight, and we'll do that here in just a moment. But this time, we're going to take your phone calls, because I know I got quite a few, and Dave got quite a few angry emails and angry tweets and whatnot, saying, how can this guy believe what he believes? And why don't you ask him this? And why don't you ask him that? Well, you know what? We're going to give you the chance to ask. Whether you believe in the flat earth theory, whether you don't believe in the flat earth theory, you can call in at 651-989-5855. 651-989-5855, and we'll take your calls throughout the entire 3 hours tonight, as we're going to grill Mark a little bit tonight and talk to him about the flat earth theory and why he so staunchly believes in it. Because I myself, when it comes to this particular theory, completely skeptical. I'm like a lot of you who emailed me and got a hold of me on Facebook and said, what is this guy talking about? There's no way.
You mean, Tim, you're like everyone else post 1600s?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious, too. I mean, I feel like
JJ,
you'll
have plenty of time to ask questions as well.
I'm going to do some Googling. I'm going to try and, I'm not going to say I'm going to try and stump them, but I also want to ask, good, very thorough questions.
Right. And I do want to remind people to be respectful tonight. That is rule number one with this program. If you're not, I'm going to have a very quick trigger finger and let you go very quickly tonight. That's going to be the rule, not the exception. We want to maintain a respectful discussion. It's okay to be passionate. It's okay to try to get your point across, but it is not okay to be insulting to our guests. So
honestly, the flat earth theory is not the craziest thing I've heard on Darkness Radio. Like, I feel like there's a forum for just ideas and experiences to be set open with no judgment.
Right.
I think this is Darkness Radio.
Yeah, and there have been crazier things on there. But you know what I've learned, JJ, is in the time that I've been doing pro wrestling and in trying to get crowds to hate me, I found out I only need 4 words to get them to truly hate me. Okay. And I just need to come out and go, the flat earth theory. And people will boo me right out of the arena. Just saying. I have not gotten this kind of response in quite a while to any topic that we've done. It impassions people. Speaking of wrestling, I want to remind people, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get with our guest here, Mark Sargent. I want to remind people that this coming Saturday at the Mounds Theater, IWI is back. It is our Valentine's Day card. It's called Broken Hearts and Broken Backs, JJ.
How fitting.
We're getting poetic over there at the Mounds Theater. You can get your discount admission tickets at moundstheater.org. You can also get your VIP tickets there as well for this coming Saturday. 6:45 is when the doors open. 7:30 is start time over there at the Mounds Theater in St. Paul.
Is there a bar located in or and around the Mounds Theater?
We serve beer and wine right there. You don't even have to leave the building.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Got beer and wine, full concessions and everything there. Every single title will be on the line. The the heavyweight title, rather, the U.S. Championship and the Tag Team Championships will all be defended on February 13th. A huge card. We have a brand new heavyweight champion in Ryan Cruz, and we hope you come out and see him on Saturday as well. So, if you have any questions, if you need to know the time, how to get tickets, Mounds Theater with an R-E, because we're not heathens here, JJ. Mounds Theatre. .org.
Not mouth breathers.
That's right. That's how you get your tickets for IWI. I tell you what, we're going to take an early break. When we come back, Mark Sargent, the Flat Earth Theory, right here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. This is Darkness Radio. He'll be back tomorrow for True Crime Tuesday. And we're excited because we're bringing back a guest tonight that I wanted a little more time with on Thursday. Unfortunately, I didn't get that. Growing up in South Whidbey Island, Washington, Mark Sargent started his career playing computer games professionally in Boulder, Colorado. From there, he spent the next 20 years training people in proprietary software. In 2014, he looked into what is no doubt the most ridiculous conspiracy ever. This is his words, by the way, called Flat Earth Theory. And through extensive research, discovered that it wasn't so laughable after all. Early in 2015, he released a series of YouTube videos titled Flat Earth Clues, which delves into the possibility of our human civilization actually being inside a Truman Show-like enclosed system and how it's been hidden from the public since 1956. We welcome back to the Darkness on the Edge of Town Paranormal Radio Show, Mark Sargent. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Tim and JJ, thanks very much for having me.
We're glad to have you back, Mark, because one of the things that I'm going to give you a little inside baseball as far as how the show goes. Dave was, when we were spending the first 2 hours with you, we were fleshing out the theory, and Dave wanted to get your side of the theory and really get into what it was that you believed in this flat Earth theory. In the meantime, I'm jumping up and down like I got to run to the restroom because I have so many things I wanted to throw at you. And I just got to let's just say to the barely scratch the surface of where I would personally go with the entire interview and ask you different questions because I'm intrigued. And we talked a little bit on Thursday night about the fact that you came across this theory and it took you some time to really let it sink in. And get you to start believing it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, when was the moment where the light went on and you said, this has to be my truth? There's just no way that this could be hogwash.
It took me all the way until February 10th of last year, 2015. But before that, it took me, and I was stubborn. Some people can absorb it in a few days, others in a few weeks, some longer than that. But it took me, I tried to debunk it for 9 months, from June of 2014 all the way up until, middle of the night on February 10th of 2015. I know it so well because it was like a Jerry Maguire moment for me, where I woke up and I said, because I kept trying to prove the globe, kept trying to prove it. I said, you know what? That's it. I don't have it anymore. It's completely swung the other way for me, and I had, for whatever reason, I had the entire narrative in my head and sat down at the computer and started typing out the narrative and created the introduction and the first 7 clues in 8 days.
Wow. Okay, so just that amount of time. But let me ask you this. I mean, was it one of those things where you had to put the pieces together, or were the pieces so much in line that you said, you know what, I completely buy this, and not only am I going to rehash it, I'm going to make it palatable for people so that they can accept it?
Yeah, for me, because of my background, which was sort of unique, I spent so much time teaching people in classroom settings proprietary software that I had the ability to break down a complex subject into easy-to-digest pieces, like what you were saying there. And that's what this thing felt like when I was looking for it. I didn't invent the pieces. Flat Earth theory has been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And when I looked at it, I really was kind of treating it like a staticky radio station, where I said, yeah, the message is there, but nobody's hearing it because it's cloudy and there's just too much stuff going on in the background. So all I did was, walk up, turned it a quarter, turn on the dial, and everything cleared up. And honestly, I really did not think it was going to resonate the way it did, though. Not in a million years, which is why I put my name and my phone number and everything else out there. I thought for sure a scientist was going to come back and shoot this thing down in a month and say, here's the way it's wrong. Here's 100% proof. Everybody can just go home. And here we are 2 days away from the 1-year anniversary of the Flat Earth Clues. And, not only has the movement just been growing and growing and then we'll probably address it eventually, that BOB thing that happened.
Yes, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yep.
Yeah, it's freaking out. So, yeah, it's fantastic for me.
So let me ask you, let's get into that just a tiny bit, but we'll rehash that here coming up later in the hour. When you first saw that BOB had gone online, and it actually had really picked up steam when Neil deGrasse Tyson weighed in on it. Yeah. And saw that BOB had put that out there about the flat Earth theory, and that he had that picture saying, see, nothing's dropping below the horizon line, that it's a flat Earth. Were you going, yeah, or were you going, okay, well, careful?
Well, yeah, treating it like, because the whole movement's been kind of really anxious about, because we knew, we've been predicting this for months, which is okay, because we know there's been a lot of closet flat earthers out there, and I don't want to equate it to, being in the closet officially, but there are, and so it's like, okay, who are the celebrities that are going to come out? And then so Tequila came out, it's like, all right, that seems sort of interesting. But when he came out, we were going, okay, because we knew, he was following it. And, he was saying all the things, he was reciting a lot of the stuff that we had out there. But didn't think for a second that Neil deGrasse Tyson would come out within 12 hours and do tweet and then do the rap battle and stuff. So we were real nervous when he came out. But I mean, heck, he made a song. So we were excited, but a little bit apprehensive.
Because let me put it to you this way, Mark. The rap community is very good about speaking to urban plight. They're terrible when it comes to scientific stuff. I don't know if you know this or not, but Dr. Dre and Professor Griff do not entitle the scientific community to jump into rap.
I've heard that rap is really not well versed in the science, in the overall sciences. I've heard this, yes.
I'm sure they're very bright guys. I mean, they make a lot of money, but
you mean Tupac really wasn't talking about the flat Earth
in
his rhymes?
No, he never did, JJ.
Oh man,
no. There's not a lot of street lyrics written about physics. You're absolutely right.
Exactly, there's not. So you see this. I don't know. I don't want to paint this in a derogatory light, but when you see B.O.B. start tweeting back and forth with Neil deGrasse Tyson, are you thinking to yourself, man, we're going to lose this one? Or are you thinking that maybe he can hold up his end of the bargain, or maybe he might need some cavalry to come in and help him out?
No, because and I can't speak for everybody, but for us, and I've said this a few times in the past, and that is, the saying that is any publicity is good publicity, especially when it comes to some topics. And for this, I mean, we were nervous at first, but when every media outlet picked it up, I had a friend call me from Indiana that night that happened, and she was at a wine bar, and she was looking at her phone. She goes, you're never going to guess what I'm reading on NPR on my phone right now. I go, what? She's going, do you have anything that's to do with what's going on? I said, yeah, actually I do. We were nervous, but at the same time, the publicity, you can't buy publicity like that. I mean, look at him. I mean, he was Grammy nominated back in 2010, but he hadn't done much recently. He says two words, basically, flat Earth, and mainstream media explodes, because now Neil deGrasse Tyson really, really helped it along. And by the time he came out and did those two, primetime television shows, in response to it, it really, really caught fire. But of course, we were very, very nervous. But at the same time, look, it takes, what I try to use is the weddings reception analogy, which is nobody wants to be the first one on the dance floor at a wedding reception. You always wait for the drunk people to show up first. Mm-hmm. And, Tequila, a prime example. She gets out there and people are going, not buying it. B.O.B. comes out there and it's like, I can see what he's doing, kind of. So now we're really holding our breath for the third person, which it's got to be more credible. I mean, I'm not knocking B.O.B. He really stuck to his guns and was great. But it's the third person that I'm looking at. Somebody basically to come in defense of B.O.B. and say, look, he may not be that crazy after all. Waiting to see what's going to be.
Doesn't that give you pause at times? Like you use the analogy of the wedding and the dance floor and the drunk people are the first one to go out there. Yeah. Like, doesn't that give you pause when the drunk people are the first ones to go out there and believe after you?
Oh, yeah, but it was going to happen this way. And that is, creative people, especially in the entertainment community, are so open-minded to so many things. Honestly, I thought, who I thought it was going to be? I thought it was going to be Bruce Jenner's, or wherever she goes by now, his daughter, Kylie.
Really?
She's sort of a conspiracy person, and she had tweeted, she went on a Twitter thing in the middle of last year on chemtrails. And so I was thinking that, we threw a few little hints her way and maybe, thought she might bite on it. And she hasn't really done much since then, but we thought that's who it was going to be because she had a couple million Twitter followers. So.
Well, and with B.O.B., he's got 2.3 million Twitter followers. I don't think Dave realized that when I threw it at him. And the other part of it, too, is you've got the ear of a younger audience who you could argue that maybe they aren't as educated, maybe they're not as interested in being educated, or they do glom onto little tidbits of things they hear on the internet and go, ooh, that's interesting, and then they follow along, much like those drunk people at the party you're talking about.
Exactly.
Now, you say you're waiting for that third. Does that third, do you validate it, or are you waiting for a more prestigious name to come along and support the theory?
It doesn't necessarily. I mean, let's be. I say that. Let's be realistic. Even though I opened with flat Earth, but really, we don't expect that it's going to be someone like Bill Maher or Colbert or anybody that nobody super credible. But what it'll do is, because right now, so when Tila Tequila came out, it was more of the it was sort of a novelty. It was like, okay, well, her life is really messed up anyway, so how much attention that we can give her. B.O.B. comes out, Grammy nominated, and then he throws the most prominent scientist in the world under the bus. That generated a lot of attention. But people still said, it's like, okay, it's still like a one-off argument. One side has their point, science has their counterpoint, and then nobody thinks about it again. But if a third person comes out, then, the old saying, it's a military saying, first time is happenstance, second time is coincidence, third time is enemy action, which is if a third person comes out, okay, then the media has to go back and re-examine this, and then how the headlines would go. They're like, well, okay, why is this still a topic? Why are people still talking about this? And then they start digging into the backstory and looking, when this phenomena started taking hold. And, that's where we're hoping it goes after that.
If you had to have a dream pick here, let's play Fantasy Flat Earth Theory for 500 right now. If you had to have a dream name come out and say, I buy this. In fact, I believe it. Who would you like to go forward in the media? What name do you think would start to turn people to your side?
That'd be tough. Probably somebody from a talk show. But it's not going to be. I wouldn't expect Oprah to do it or Ellen or anything like that. Although it would, someone along those lines. Okay, who I'd love to bring it up because she brought it up some years ago, and I don't know why she did. She brought it up back in 2007 or 2008. I'd bring up Whoopi Goldberg. Because she brought it up on The View. It's an interesting panel that she has. She could bring it up again. She could come out and say, look, I'm back in B.O.B., and then bring it up to her group. She's got basically a built-in panel with her. Mm-hmm. And then from The View, maybe someone, because I think it's going to be somebody that knows him. Because he knew Tila Tequila. He used some of her sound bites in one of his tracks, if I'm not mistaken. So like celebrities, everybody rubs elbows with everybody else. So I think it's going to be someone that knows him personally, but right now isn't willing to stick their neck out because, of all that. Again, there is a lot of criticism that goes along with this topic. No question. It's the most, like what you said, it's the most polarizing thing I've ever seen, conspiracy or not. I don't care what conspiracy you pick or even what topic you pick, even in mainstream topics. I've never seen anything generate this much emotion for such a simple concept, really, compared to a lot of other things. So that's what we're kind of holding our breath for. Someone that's willing to stick their neck out there and be the first legitimate person on the. I shouldn't say legitimate, but the more credible person on the dance floor.
Randy Quaid, if he jumps on your bandwagon, does that help or hurt your conversation?
I don't think he would go. Is he even talking? Does he even make public things anymore? He would not help, I don't think. Although, again, anybody, I shouldn't say that anybody could be the third person, but Randy, I might be actually a step backwards. No offense, man. I like some of the work you've done, but that tape that was put up a few years ago.
Yeah, the fact that he was squatting in a house with his wife for a while kind of tells you where the mindset is. I don't know that you want him aligned on your side.
Yeah, life decisions. I mean, honestly, I actually think he made worse life decisions than Tila Tequila.
Oh, yes.
She's no prize when it comes to choices.
I mean, Tequila might have made some salacious choices, but not plain out bat guano crazy choices. So, there's the difference there. Mark, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, let's start to get into a little bit of the questions that I've been fielding over the last few days. Because, man, there are some opinions along with the questions, but we'll just farm the questions here and start to get into why people really can't believe in the flat earth theory and get Mark's response as to what the answers to the questions are from what he studied and why he believes that the people who sent these questions are wrong. We'll do that when we come back. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. The guest is Mark Sargent, who... And Mark, let me get the website from you again. A website about the flat earth theory and also some videos out there that you'll want to watch as well. Mark, give us the website again real quick that you have that has the YouTube videos on it. Oh, are you there, Mark?
Sorry about that. I had my mic muted.
Oh, not a problem.
Rookie mistake, and you hate to see it. The website is called enclosedworld.com. And if you go to YouTube, the easiest way, my YouTube channel is Mark K. Sargent, but all you have to do is type in Flat Earth Clues and you'll find it. In fact, type in Flat Earth Clues into any search engine at this point, and if you can't find it, you're probably not using a computer.
Well, that's true. You may be using your smartphone, but you still do it the same way. Yeah, we don't want to confuse people. Mark, I want to recap for people real quick who maybe didn't catch Thursday's show and saying, why are you guys talking about the flat earth? Just tell us briefly, what exactly is the flat earth theory and exactly what do you believe the shape of the world is and how is it mapped out?
Sure. The flat earth theory, which is probably the oldest conspiracy there is, and which is something we thought hundreds of years ago, if not thousands, was that the Earth actually isn't a sphere. It's not a globe like a basketball. It is actually flat, like a dinner plate with a dome covering it. Mentioned in Genesis, I'm not going to quote too much chapter and verse on this show, called the firmament, which was some sort of barrier that seals off this dinner plate from the rest of the universe, like a cake plate, where you have the dome on top. And if you're still not getting it, then really take a globe, you put your hand on the North Pole, and you flatten it, and where the North Pole really becomes the center of a disc-shaped world, much like Dark City or the middle of the Truman Show. And the outside of it, and because of the original question after that is, well, if that's the case, why isn't the water fall off the edge? And that is because there is the edge is the Antarctic shore, except that the Antarctic shore goes all the way around us. It's not this continent that sort of looks like Australia. It is basically an elevated shore that continues in a great circle around this place. And yeah, that's what it looks like. And the official map projection, you can find this anywhere. It's not hard to find. Is the azimuthal equidistant map, which is spelled AZIMUTHL map, which is used by the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey. Is also the map used by the United Nations flag, which is very interesting, designed in 1946. And it is the same map that is used by the Flat Earth Society, which I am a card-carrying member of, but I really don't listen to anything they say because everybody's doing their own research at this point.
Mark, so does the Antarctic edge where things freeze then? Does that help, what I would consider spillover? Because if there's an edge...
Well, that's a good question, and it's really the Antarctic continent is really, really interesting because it doesn't have to freeze. Of course, it does freeze when it gets out there, which is very convenient as well. But the entire coastline of Antarctica is this 200-foot high cliff of ice that goes straight up, which is more than enough to hold in anything you want. But then if you can get up on top of that ice, then it starts sloping up to like 2 miles, which is, roughly 11,000, 12,000 feet. And it plateaus at 2 miles for basically the entire length of the continent, even what science describes to us. So, and it's really extremely hostile with a lot of negative, reinforcements built into it. So it's very convenient, but yeah, it holds everything in just nicely.
With Antarctica on the last show and catching JJ and other people up to speed, you had maintained that it is the entire edge of the world on this flat Earth, or this cake plate, like you say.
Yeah.
one of the things that had come up is you brought up the Antarctica Conservation Act, or the treaty that doesn't allow people to, or countries to go down there and mine any resources or introduce anything such as plants, animals, or whatnot into that ecosystem for fear of a criminal penalty. Yeah. One of the things that, and you had said in our last interview that nobody is allowed down there. Well, I got one email from somebody saying, well, you are allowed down there. There is tourism down there.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. And I state this, but I tried to cover my base. Remember, I tried to shut this thing down for 9 months. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in my clues, I say yes. If you want to spend the $10,000-$15,000, you can absolutely go down there and have your picture taken with the emperor penguins or the smaller versions on the peninsula. But it's the bigger thing. It's not the people, because hardly anyone goes down there anyway. Mm-hmm. But the bigger thing is the corporations aren't allowed to go down there. And I don't mean just some of the corporations. I mean every corporation. No corporation in the world, no matter how much money they make, is allowed to go down there. It is the only people that are down there right now are some scientists and some military. And you can't tell me, and I know I'm kind of be jumping around a little bit, and if you want, you can cut me off on certain points. But like when Admiral Byrd comes in 1954, and says, yeah, the entire place is made out of money. There's a mountain range made out of coal, there's oil, there's minerals, there's uranium. We're all going to carve this thing up. And the Soviet Union, United Kingdom, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, they're all down there ready to make money. And then they all leave at the same time, and they form this treaty that says, in 1959, that says you can't go down there and do anything. And the treaty's ironclad. And now it's has a secondary environmental treaty on top of it. But it's not even up for review until 2041. No treaty exists like this anywhere, and it's bigger than money. You tell me that ExxonMobil can't lobby? In fact, not only can you not go down there. Let's say I'm the president of Exxon. Not only can I not take my company down there to get any oil, I can't even solicit or lobby for it. So if I have friends in the New York Times, I should be running stories once a week saying how great it would be to have Exxon down there. How great it would be for America or whatever country owns Exxon. And they're not even allowed to do that. And that for me was a big turning point, because it was somebody said in a video on YouTube, he goes, it's damn suspicious. And I wish I would have used that in the clues, because it is. It's really suspicious. And that's just the Antarctica part. That no corporation, we're founded on greed and money and power, and there's something down there that doesn't apply to. Come on, it's not Area 51. It doesn't apply to that, but an entire continent.
Well, let me throw this at you for a moment, and I kind of started to bring this up on Thursday, but I want to flesh it out just a little bit with you. That being that in the time that Admiral Byrd was there, all the way up until the energy crisis in the mid-'70s, we were a planet that believed we had plenty of resources on hand, that we could drill for oil for days in the places we were at and wouldn't have to, mine resources from anywhere else. We believed we had plenty of fossil fuels, coal. We were beginning the beginning of the nuclear age with nuclear energy. So at that particular time, we don't exactly have a bunch of wealth and riches when it comes to energy, but we do have enough sources that we can keep going back to the well for. Could it just be that they saw this land that, has species that we don't have anywhere else in the world, and they decided, what, in the interest of science, in the interest of preserving this land, because we don't want to wipe it out like we have most other things on Earth, maybe we keep it pristine.
And that's not bad. And I actually had thought of that right off the bat. But then I had to put myself, because from America's standpoint, because we went through World War II, and the continental United States wasn't even touched, so we were sitting pretty. But the countries that were, the Soviet Union was still smoldering from World War II. In the UK, they were still trying to rebuild. How are they being talked into it? And everybody else. The thing that got me, and the word here is unilaterally. You can't tell me that every country that was down there they just agreed. I mean, America, everyone could kind of understand that, because we had plenty of oil in Texas and the oil states. But the rest of it, nah. Plus, it was 1959. Environmentalism. I mean, you got to remember the first real big environmental group, Greenpeace, wasn't even founded until 1971. So having Russia leave, and they were the big ones in that case. And plus, not only that, but you're also convincing every other country that comes online. So once you become an economic power. Let's say you formed your own country, back in the 60s, call it Timlandia. Mm-hmm. They put this piece of paper in front of you, and they say, oh, yeah, by the way, just so you know, you can't go down to Antarctica. Even though there's no indigenous plant life, no indigenous animal life, we're talking the mainland, not the peninsula with the emperor penguins. No people. You're not allowed to go down there. And then you say, well, how long? And they say, well, ever. What do you mean ever? I mean, indefinitely. No one ever gets to go down there ever. It just blew. It was just one of those mind-blowing things because it was hidden in plain sight. The treaty was put in place, but since it was so far away and it was in the 50s, it didn't receive much fanfare. But now, and think of when oil was $100 a barrel, not that long ago. I mean, mm-hmm. Not today, where it's ridiculous. Think of the added pressure where they would have everything should have been explored. I mean, let's face it, if a petroleum company wants to go, they're getting into national parks nowadays. They could start fracking in your backyard if they wanted to, but they aren't even allowed to talk about going down there.
Well, I do want to backtrack with you real quick because there's one organization out there that even before let's say the mid-'70s, before the energy crisis, was regulating, even if Timlandia popped up in 1954, that would be the United Nations. The United Nations could get those countries together, and countries honored what the UN said then. They don't so much now. The UN's kind of looked at as a little bit of a stepping stone or something to be stepped over. But in that day and time, the United Nations held some power. And if the United Nations and its members told a country like Russia, you can't go down there and drill, you can't go down there and mine out those and export those minerals or that fuel, then they would have to agree to it, otherwise face sanctions from other countries in the world. And that's how you keep that treaty in play.
Sure, it's not a bad idea, and actually, now that you brought it up, the United Nations, I think at the highest level knew, maybe not the General Assembly by any stretch, but remember the United Nations flag was really the first modern drawing of the flat Earth map, which is really, really interesting. It was one because it was designed in 1946, and the treaty wasn't even put in place until 1959. But the second was, people don't understand, but you got to look at the flag because I don't have a visual in front of me, which is there's something missing from the United Nations flag, and that is Antarctica is not on it. And I thought that was very, very curious considering how big a landmass it supposedly is on a globe model. It's bigger than Australia, but it's not even portrayed. And some people say, well, it's because nobody owns Antarctica. And then I come back and I say, well, that's my point. Do you know any piece of real estate anywhere in the world that nobody owns? Nobody lays claim to it. Admiral Byrd even said on television where, and we were so lucky to get that footage where he was worried that there was going to be a potential conflict down there at the very least over the uranium.
Mark, we have to take a break real quick. I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about that UN flag because, again, Dave did throw out a theory in the last program, and I want to explore it with you a little bit. When we come back, more with Mark Sargent, the Flat Earth Theory, here on Darkness Radio. Getting into the UN flag and why Antarctica isn't on that flag. Now, you had mentioned, and David brought it up too, well, Antarctica isn't a nation. It's not governed by anybody. It's not owned by anybody, so it wouldn't be on that map. I'm going to go one step further with the United Nations flag. If the Earth is a globe, I'm going to have you do a what if here. If the Earth is a globe, in your opinion, which side do you display on the flag?
Oh, you mean if
on the United Nations flag, you'd have to.
Flag. Well,
you'd have to.
You could use because people have thrown that at me before, and it's like, look, use what the AE map is, which is fine. You just stretch out the Antarctic continent to be kind of decorative, but they don't. As a matter of fact, not only is it not there, but on the outer edge, in place of it, is this giant, sort of a Greco-Roman wreath thingy, which doesn't even go all the way around. And and when you look up online on Wikipedia, they don't mention it, they don't discuss it, of exactly how the design was laid out or why Antarctica is missing. There are ways, artistic ways, even if you didn't use the AAE way of doing it, of trying to portray Antarctica. At the very least, you could take two globe models. We've seen these, one showing one side, one part of the globe, one showing the other side. You could use more than one disc to show it. I just thought it was very interesting that they left it out entirely.
JJ and I were talking during the break, and JJ brought up an interesting point about expeditions before Admiral Byrd.
Right. I mean, most notably would be like Shackleton, who went down there several times. But then you throw out like the name Amundsen, who quote unquote found the geographical center of Antarctica, or the South Pole. Forgive me. I mean, where do those fall in? Because those are all pre-UN, most of the dates that you threw out there.
Bad navigation is what I can tell you. I mean, Admiral Byrd was the guy that was basically, he's such an interesting story. Most people know, people are going, why do I know about this Admiral Byrd guy? It's because he did the North Pole in 1926, and supposedly, there was a hole up where the North Pole is, and it turned into something akin to Journey to the Center of the Earth when he went inside, and it was tropical, and there was civilization and dinosaurs and the whole 9 yards. But for whatever reason, even though that should have kept him going up to the North Pole forever, somebody ordered him down to Antarctica from 1928 all the way until his death in 1957, which was interesting because it was like he was looking for something. He just kept going down, and he flew his own planes, and he just kept going down there, mission after mission. Took a break during World War II because nobody went down to Antarctica during World War II except for, because your viewers are smart enough to know this, the Nazis. The Nazis were actually down there during World War II. We don't know why exactly. But after World War II, Admiral Byrd goes back down again in 1946, right after, because he was actually at the, if I'm not mistaken, at the surrender signing at Pearl Harbor. And he goes down in 1946 in called Operation High Jump, his biggest mission, biggest military mission, full carrier group, thousands of men. And, there's been a lot of speculation that he was trying to root out the last of the Nazi forces, and the Nazis were aligning themselves with an ancient civilization that was down there. But that's neither here nor there, because by the time 1954 came around and he was on television, that was, 8 years later, he didn't seem to care. Whatever was happening down in Antarctica was business as usual. But I think even they had given up on trying to fight, because in my mind there was no doubt he was looking for the edge. He was looking for the barriers, because it's not like when you get to the Antarctic coastline, that's the end of the Earth. You've got to keep going for a long way, thousands of miles probably. And he was looking, had to set up refueling stations, and he was looking. 1954 sounded like he gave up. And then during 1955, during Operation Deep Freeze, that's when everything changed.
Mark, I tell you what, we have to take our break. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. We got to take our top of the hour break here. When we come back, let's finish up with Antarctica. And I did find something kind of interesting about the resources of Antarctica and why they might not have gone after it. We'll finish up with Antarctica. In the next hour, let's cover a little bit about how things work in a flat Earth as opposed to the globe model that we all believe in. I shouldn't say we all. Most of us believe in now. We'll talk about that in the next hour, and we'll take your phone calls as well. 651-989-5855, 651-989-5855. Tonight, we're exploring the flat Earth theory with Mark Sargent here on Darkness Radio. Welcome back. It's hour 2 of Darkness Radio here on Twin Cities News Talk and AM 1130. Tim Dennis and JJ sitting in for Dave Schrader tonight, and a very interesting topic, the flat Earth theory, some of which frustrates some people, some of which intrigues some people. We brought Mark Sargent back from our guest from Thursday night to kind of flesh out with him some questions that we had about the flat Earth theory and how what we believe in the modern day actually relates to what his theory is. We wanted to kind of let you, the audience, address Mark as well. And we'll be doing that here in the next 2 hours at 651-989-5855. I also have some email questions that I'll get to here in a bit. Now, Mark, before we went to the top of the hour break, I said I had a couple of things on Antarctica real quick for you.
Sure.
It's Wikipedia, so can you trust Wikipedia? But here's what they say. Although coal, hydrocarbons, iron ore, platinum, copper, chromium, nickel, gold, and other minerals have been found, they have not been in large enough quantities to exploit. The 1991 Protocol on Environmental Protection to the Antarctic Treaty also restricts a struggle for resources. In 1998, a compromise agreement was reached to place an indefinite ban on mining to be reviewed in 2048, further limiting economic development and exploitation. The primary economic activity is the capture and offshore trading of fish, and if I could read tonight, Antarctic fisheries in 2000 through 2001 reported landing 112,934 tons of fish in that particular period. To me, that would say that, you know what, we don't really want to disturb this undisturbed land that might have some species on it that we don't have anywhere else in the world. It's not worth it for us to go in economically and mine what it has in resources. Why don't we just leave it be?
Sure. And again, and what you read there, was what from the some of that stuff was from the 90s. And yet, the main point man, the guy that was out there, and he brought his geologic teams that were out there in the 1950s, said, "Oh yeah, this place is just prime to carve up." Because again, what do you're not knocking over, even if there was environmentalism back then, you're not knocking over any trees, you're not stepping on any bugs, there's no owls that you have to worry about. It's just all there for the taking. So, and he said, yeah, he absolutely. I mean, you can hear him on the thing. He goes, look, there's an entire mountain range made out of coal. And I know coal was cheap back then, but it's not necessarily cheap now. We could make it viable, especially with all the other stuff that was going down there. I mean, yeah, I understand what you're saying there. But yeah, what you said in the beginning, which was, can we trust Wiki? You can for some things, but also Wiki can be used to, for the powers that be, their advantage. If Wiki says that, oh yeah, by the way, there's nothing down there, nothing to see here, we don't need to go down to Antarctica because there's nothing there to get, that's fine and all that they say that, but I would expect nothing less. If Wiki said the exact opposite and said, oh yeah, there's tons and tons of resources there, but we're not getting them because of X, Y, and Z, then I'd be suspicious. What you just read there, that's exactly what I would expect.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Mark. Are you ready to take some phone calls here? Because we do have a couple lined up.
Yeah, I do. But can I preface this?
Sure.
Anyone that's calling in, you got to understand that if this topic doesn't make you laugh or angry or excited or real hyped up, then there's probably something wrong with you, because everybody reacts the same way to this. It's like, this cannot be possible. I mean, you go through the 5 stages of acceptance, and that is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then you finally accept it. So yeah, let them come.
And Mark, sorry to cut you off, Tim, but I told Tim during the break that, jokingly, at least he's got a sense of humor about it, and you really do. You understand that to a lot of people, this is like telling them, the sun's going to rise in the west and fall in the east.
Yeah.
And you're able to laugh about it.
I totally know. I mean, people, I can't get mad at them when they yell, because I said, look, I was in your shoes. I was literally banging my head on the keyboard, going, please let it be a globe, please let it be a globe. And then I finally gave up. I couldn't do it. So yeah, whatever questions they got, I love to hear them.
All right, then you can call in right now, 651-989-5855. I'm going to take a couple of questions here, and then we'll move forward in the different questions that I have too. I want to bring up real quick before we go to calls, Mark, the range of emotions that you were just extrapolating on. Were everything I had seen in my email and more. I had one gentleman who wrote me and said, I was screaming at my radio until my wife finally walked over and turned it off. I had another man say he threw things at his computer. It really is a passionate subject. And I wonder, is it one of those things where you get people just throwing death threats at you? They get that upset?
No. It is strictly a paradigm shift. In fact, I'm not going to name because you guys have competitor radio stations, but I had someone from another interview call in and literally say, how dare you, young man, tell me the world isn't what I think it is. And that's really what it comes down to, because compared to all the two things. One, compared to all the conspiracies, this isn't one you can walk away from. This isn't a conspiracy where it doesn't affect you in any way. It's like, pick whatever conspiracy you want. Say, I don't have to think about that. It's not going to affect me directly. This one will, because you're living on it. The other is, it's the only conspiracy we debunk to children. We don't tell anybody, when they're in first grade about, Pearl Harbor or JFK or Smash American War, or you just take your pick, or the modern ones, but we do put a globe in the classroom. And that globe has been in every classroom in every country in the world since we were kids. But there was no picture to prove it until 1972. And so anyway, sorry, I digress. Let them come though.
Not a problem. Let's go to our first phone call. We'll go to Joe in Edina. Joe, you have a question about the North Pole. Why don't you go ahead with that?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I don't want to talk a lot about science and things like that. Let's just talk about some basic geometry. And I'm picturing your picture of the world to be kind of like a pizza pie.
Yes.
On the outer edge of the crust is the Antarctica, the Antarctic continent.
He's fading.
The center would be the North Pole.
Okay.
Right?
Hey, Joe, man, if you could just make sure you talk real loud and clear into the phone for me, okay?
Okay, so, sorry, I'm a little nervous. The distance, we've determined the distance from the North Pole to the equator to be about 6,000 miles. So it would make sense then, since we're looking at concentric circles, that the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole would be about 12,000 miles. Just by using plain geometry, if we go 6,000 miles to the equator, the circumference of the equator would be about 37,000 miles, based on just simple geometry. The distance of the outer crust would be roughly twice that, or 75,000 miles. Now, I checked Wikipedia again, that the coastline of Antarctica is only about 10,000 miles. So how do you make up that difference, the 65,000 miles that can't be accounted for?
Yeah. Excellent.
Because
Excellent
if you think
question.
about it, distances on a globe make sense, but distances in how you're portraying the world, as you get closer to the South Pole, everything spreads out dramatically.
Yeah, dramatically. You're absolutely right. So the first part of your question is, yes, if Antarctica, what they say it is, 10,000 miles around or whatever it is, around the coastline of Antarctica, completely wrong. Because it is the one continent on the flat Earth map that is absolutely has nothing to do with, it doesn't even fit into any mainstream maps. It would be tens of thousands of miles around, and it would be a conclusive proof if you could prove it. In fact, I proposed a test some months ago, and you could do it with either two ships or one ship and a plane. And that is, you did two ships, one went clockwise, one went counterclockwise, and made sure they were within visual distance of the Antarctic coastline. They should reach each other in, a week to 10 days. But if the flat Earth map is correct, then those ships would never make it to each other because they'd have to refuel several times before then. And it would take upwards of, a month to meet each other. No question. But as far as what your second part was, where the distances would be all off, you're absolutely right. And I know you probably haven't looked into it because you're just now hearing this for the first time, but look up the clues that I put in about the air travel down in the southern hemisphere. The plane routes are all extremely exaggerated. The connections don't make any sense. Rio de Janeiro to Sydney, Australia shouldn't go through the Middle East, shouldn't go through Los Angeles or San Francisco, even if you were going to pick up people. I've talked to airline experts, and they said it's all based on pounds of fuel and the money spent. Not to mention that those three oceans, the Indian Ocean, the South Pacific, and the South Atlantic, the GPS system, which, by the way, is as advertised, doesn't even cover anything out in those oceans. Any plane that's flying over those three oceans, their latitude and longitude stats, their data stream drops off entirely, and they go into approximated or estimated mode. It's fascinating. So you're absolutely right. It's a good point. But in our map, yes, the outer ring, as it is, anything past the equator, the distances are very exaggerated, and yes, the Antarctic coastline would be extremely exaggerated.
Joe, I want to thank you for the phone call tonight. We appreciate it. Tell you what, Mark, we got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Earth systems and how they function, because we have an idea with the globe model of how things function. And I want to get into how things function on a flat Earth, because to a lot of people this doesn't make any sense, and I had a lot of people coming at me about it. So we'll address that when we come back. Mark Sargent is our guest. The flat Earth theory is our topic, and we'll be right back on Darkness Radio. Now, Mark, before we went to the break, I was saying I wanted to start talking about some Earth functions and how they function on a flat Earth theory. However, I do have a question from Dan Frankenhoff on my Facebook page. He is a pilot. And the reason I bring this up is you were talking about, why do you fly and land in certain places, and it has to do with, the amount of fuel and getting people from place to place.
Yep.
He states, Tim, could you ask the guest how it would be possible to fly an airplane east from the Americas to Europe, and then east from Europe to Japan, and then from Japan east to the Americas? Unless our pilots are all in on this conspiracy too. And why is every other planet in our solar system round?
Oh, okay. Two-part question.
Mm-hmm.
The first part is easy, and that is, because that's one of the first ones that I get. And that is, how can someone fly around the world, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, if it's on a flat world, is it really that much different? Rather than moving your finger around a basketball, you're moving your finger around a dinner plate. You're still making one big either giant left-hand turn or giant right-hand turn. What's more interesting, and I've interviewed pilots. As a matter of fact, I interviewed a guy that owned his own flight instructor school out of Iowa. On top of also did an Air Force navigator, career navigator from the United States Air Force. But they both told me the same thing, which was when it comes to pilots, no, not all the pilots. No. In fact, pilots know nothing about anything because for several reasons. One is the guy with the flight instructor was really blunt about it. He goes, look, they're just too busy to care. You take off, you have a whole bunch of checklists you got to go through. You're monitoring your flight. You're always worried about your landing, and you get that thing down there. You got from point A to point B. No one ever would think twice about it. Plus, if you had like the top 50 things to worry about for a pilot, and I said this in one of my clues, flat Earth or the enclosed world or whatever you want to call it is so far down the list that it's such a massive leap of faith for a pilot that even if you thought about it, right, even if it came to you, let's say you're a pilot for United Airlines,
mm-hmm.
who are you going to tell? You're not going to be. Do you go to your employer? Yeah, that's a desk job waiting to happen. Do you go to the FAA? I mean, I joked about it in one of the clues where I said you would be better off. A pilot would be better off. Instead of saying the maps are wrong, they think the Earth is flat. They'd be better off saying that they were chased by a UFO for 2 hours. And that they're convinced that a UFO had been following them. That is the sort of backlash they would get. So I was so lucky to get the two pilots that I did. But they said the same thing. They said, look, all the gauges, all the instruments they use seem to point that there is no curvature on this world, and that there's no Coriolis effect. And by Coriolis effect, I mean it doesn't spin. What was the second part of that question?
Well, we'll get to that. Actually, if somebody wants to ask the same question online, but I want to kind of wrap this point up, having to do with airlines and flights.
Sure.
Now, in your flat Earth map, mm-hmm. wouldn't it make sense for the airlines to put fueling stations in what we call the North Pole or the Arctic, and just simply fly over the top of the pie plate, if you will, or the cake plate, rather than go in a circular motion?
Some flights do go over the North Pole. Now, there's no refueling stations. I mean, yeah, there's some in Canada and some over the other side, the Soviet Union. But running a fueling station anywhere near the North Pole, you don't have to do it because you generally have enough fuel capacity that you can cross that without any stretch. But in the South Pole, in the Southern Hemisphere, it becomes very, very difficult. And again, anyone wants to look this up, try to book a flight, and I'll keep this short for you. Try to book a flight, a nonstop flight, anywhere from South America to anywhere near Australia, and tell me what happens. You'll get 50 connections, you'll get 50 connecting flights, and maybe one nonstop, maybe. And tell me why all those connections. Then start looking at the connections and tell me where they're going, plot them on a globe map, then put it on the flat Earth map and tell me why on a globe map it's a big triangle, but on a flat map it's either a shallow dogleg or a straight line. That doesn't happen.
Now, Mark, can it just be because you've got employees that have to get to certain hubs that, yes, are out of the way, but you also have refilling stations as well that are...
I mean, it's of course possible, but again, when you look at the routes yourself, you're doubling the distances in some cases, because some people say, well, you're picking up rich passengers, going from like Rio. I'm going, yeah, but you're going the opposite direction. It's not like, for example, if you're going from Rio de Janeiro to like Sydney, Australia, you should be just going straight across the South Pacific Ocean. The South Atlantic Ocean. It should be just a straight shot, but they'll take you in the weirdest places. They'll go north for whatever reason. They'll go straight up like to San Francisco and then back down, or straight through the Middle East and then back down. They double. Again, the pilots told me the same thing, and it's all about the cost of fuel. That's all anyone cares about when it comes to the airline industry, is the price of fuel and how much money you can save. That's why you do connections that sort of make sense. But again, look for yourself. It's fascinating. Try to book a flight. I mean, you don't have to actually book it. You can just, price it out. And it gets really, really weird.
Even here in the U.S., though, Mark, I've went to go book airlines or airline flights to go to the East Coast. And here in Minnesota, we're, top of the U.S., right in the middle.
Yeah.
But I have connecting flights that take me all the way down directly south to Dallas and then take me all the way back out to the East Coast, where it would just be simple to go to Chicago and from Chicago hit that main hub and go out east.
Oh, sure.
Why is that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, and in small distances, because I used to business travel for years, and you're absolutely right. Some of the connections, even in the United States, don't make that much sense. But there's not as exaggerated as these flights are. I mean, these flights should be minimum. Like, for example, if you're going across the South Atlantic Ocean, it should be a 12-hour flight, 13-hour flight, depending on what kind of aircraft you're using. Why are some, and it's not even just the connections they're using. There's these wild layovers. I was getting stuff 38, 40 hours. You could get stuff even pushing like 50 hours. You're going into day 3. It doesn't take 3 days to get somewhere on a major airliner. It's not like you're going to the middle of of an African, safari in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I know what you're saying about the connections to the United States. Well, again, I've flown them all myself, but when it comes to the long flights, that's the last thing anyone wants to deal with. In fact, I had a corporate travel agent. That was one of the people I interviewed recently, and her career corporate travel agent, and she got complaints constantly in the Southern Hemisphere because people are going, why can't I just get from here to there? Why do I have to keep connecting through all these places? Why does it take me 2 days to get somewhere that should only take 12 hours? And there was nothing she could tell her, or these people. That's just what happened. And up until now, because, the high-speed internet and how to share information, nobody could really compare notes up until now.
Well, now, could it just be, and this is the other model I wanted to get to when you talk about a globe Earth versus a flat Earth, jet streams seem to be the thing with the globe. You've got to follow certain jet streams. It's hard to fight the jet stream. You can do it, but if you're fighting it coming, from country to country, or even in the, like you point out, the southern hemisphere, you're going to run into things like hurricanes. You're going to run into things like disturbances that'll take more fuel, that'll take more time for you to go to, and it's easier just to fly around it than to tackle it. Is that a scenario that works in your world, or is it something that just doesn't compute?
The jet stream doesn't pose much. In fact, you want to look at some cool stuff. Rob Skiba, I give credit to him. He's a SKIBA. He was the guy that I think first looked at this in our movement, which was. To answer your first question, no, it doesn't bother us because the jet stream runs about 100 miles an hour, maybe a little faster, 120. So if you're flying against it, you run into a little bit of a headwind, depending on what altitude you're at. But when you take the world's weather and you convert it, because you can go online and do this, it's really, really cool, and you convert it to an AE map, because they have just about every map projection you can think of. If you convert the world's weather and put it on a flat map, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's the most efficient thing, where everything runs in basically this giant circle. It's like watching a giant merry-go-round with all these different trails going around it, and it's so elegant compared to what it would look like on a globe. So for us, the weather patterns work way more efficiently in an enclosed disk system than it does now.
Well, this is what confuses me, because, and I'm looking at the map right now as we speak, the flat Earth map. To me, it would seem like, okay, if you have a circular jet stream that goes around and around, and I'm just guessing at the way you said Skiba had said it went around. To me, it would seem to me that you would have the same type of weather year-round in certain hemispheres than you would, like, say, on a globe system where for example, I'll use Minnesota right now. Minnesota... as we get further away from the Earth and we're spinning in this globe, of course, you come up to winter, but it's summer down in Australia, whereas it's flipped in that respect. Wouldn't it be in this particular map, if you're talking jet streams that kind of circle like a pinwheel, okay? Wouldn't you, at that particular point, be thinking, well, it should stay warm all year round in Australia. It should be cooler all year round in Minnesota because of that particular setup.
Yeah. No, I see where you're going with that. And I get this question also quite a bit, and that is, how do the seasons work on a flat Earth map compared to a globe Earth map? And that is, again, hopefully people will be able to envision this. Imagine, it's because of the sun and the moon. I have to back up a sec. The sun and the moon in this model the sun is not 93 million miles away, and the moon is not 237,000 miles away. They're in here with us. This thing is, the analogies I'm going to throw out you kind of rapid fire is, it's a planetarium. It's a terrarium. It is the Truman Show. So the sun and the moon are big, the sun is just one big giant light bulb, and the moon is one big giant nightlight, and they're in here with us. But they don't follow the exact same path every time, like we see in the sky. The sun, like a record needle on a record player, as it moves in, as the song keeps going, the needle moves farther and farther in as it's going around. And then, imagine running it in reverse, and it goes further and further out. Combine that with the geothermal stuff below, and the seasons actually work way more efficiently in this model than they ever would on a planet. But that's how it works. I mean, the sun and the moon still do what they do, but it's just inside, floating above us like a mobile above a child's crib.
And we're going to take a break here in just a moment. When we do, we'll come back. We'll talk a little bit more about seasons. And I want to talk time zones with you, too, because that seems kind of confusing as well as to how it would work in that flat Earth model. But I do want to bring up one more time with jet streams. I want to talk microcosms. And specifically, I'll use Minnesota again because that's where I'm at and I'm familiar with. A lot of times when we get winter weather patterns, you'll notice a jet stream will dive up around Washington. It'll come back down below Minnesota, maybe as far south as Iowa or Indiana, and then come back up. And we get that pressure system that drops down from Canada. Mm-hmm. I understand how that works in a global model. I don't understand how that works in a flat Earth model, because you've got, again, if things kind of are going around the cake plate.
Got it.
How do those little microcosms happen where you get individual weather fluctuations within even a country?
Yeah. How much time before the break?
We'll need to take it here briefly in about a minute or two, but go ahead.
Okay. I think I can do it before then.
Okay.
And that is no different. Again, you'll have to see the AE projection of the weather, from the top down. But it's not a perfect merry-go-round, meaning they're not, of course, perfect grooves going around in circles. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there's going to be organic variations just like there would be on a globe. So, yeah, if you get those weird dips where, all of a sudden you get that Arctic drop, which, you're fully aware with. I almost moved to Minneapolis, but I didn't because of that Arctic drop that happens every once in a while. It's horrible. But where it drops down from Canada, that has no problem in the model that we use at all, because again, even if it's working in a circular pattern, it's still, there's still going to be some ebbs and flows here and there. So it's not, it's not so rigid that there aren't, obviously, it still goes around, but they're not perfect circles.
Okay. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I got Charles in Indiana on the phone. He's got a question that's a little more bigger in scope that we'll get to. I do have some other microcosm questions, including time zones and the way the sea works in this flat Earth theory. Again, we're talking flat Earth theory with our guest. I've just blanked on Mark's last name. Mark Sargent, of course, Mark Sargent. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm sitting here thinking of questions, and Anyway, so we'll talk flat Earth theory and more here next on Darkness Radio. I did.
Yeah, I looked up and I was like, what? Did we all of a sudden become like an easy listening station? Is Delilah back on the air?
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, we have, JJ. You've got the better pipes than I do. I do not have a voice for adult contemporary.
That soothing kind of...
Yeah, I sound more like an agitated gerbil.
Here we are tonight, listening to the hits of Delilah.
Look at that. See, you, sir, you have a voice for that, not I.
The last guy that had a voice like that, they found him homeless. His name was Ted Williams.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
How you working? You have that refrigerator box ready just in case?
I'm well on my way to his point.
Well, there you go. Welcome back to the show. Our guest tonight, Mark Sargent. I didn't forget your name this time, Mark. I swear I didn't. We're talking flat Earth theory. You can check out his website at enclosedworld.com, and see some of the videos for yourself as to why he believes the Earth is flat and like a cake plate and not the globe model that we've been taught actually in the school systems. Mark, I'm trying not to lose track of my thoughts here, and I think I'll just spill them. And we were just talking about jet streams, and one of the things with jet streams is you also hear about the way that the seas flow.
Yeah,
you had said something interesting on the last show that we had you on last Thursday, where you said you believe the seas were mechanically manipulated to flow the way they flow. Yeah. Explain that to me, because we kind of glossed over that.
Sure. No, and I get that question a lot. In fact, I get a lot of flack for even what's below the seas. But what I try to preface it with is this. You are in a giant machine, for lack of a better word. If you want to reference the 1998, I know it's a little dated now, movie The Truman Show, or Dark City, or whatever you want to. But you're basically in a giant soundstage, and everything is artificial. Everything was constructed, including, for example, if the sun and the moon are giant mechanisms, which may only be less than 50 miles wide each, then the underwater conveyor system, which you're talking about, which runs the water through all the oceans, the currents that wrap around the globe, is also mechanical. And even below that, the magma systems, because a lot of people say, well, why would the magma systems have to be artificial? I say, why are you kidding? You would never leave those to chance, because if they were organic, then one supervolcano and the whole thing goes away. You're in basically a giant Swiss watch. Very, very well designed, extremely efficient, and functioning on multiple levels. So yeah, the underwater conveyor system, which helps control the weather. In fact, I think it even helps control the weather more than the sun does. The analogy would be like jets in a hot tub. They're there, although to the naked eye you can't see them.
But we see the jets in the hot tub, and we've been to some of the deepest part of the seas. Mind you, we don't know the entire expanse of the sea out there or the oceans, but we've been to a lot of it, and we know what's in a lot of it. How come we've never seen this conveyor system? Where is it?
Oh, you mean like the what we call now the underwater conveyor system?
Yeah. Yeah, what's moving the seas? Well, how come we don't see the machinery behind them?
Well, I could come back and say, well, what's moving them on a globe? But on a flat model, I can describe it, and that is no different than why the magnetic pole up in the north moves, and that is, in a system like this, you would need something extremely high tech. One of the things would be a form of molecular magnetism, not that much different than the unified field, which is. Let's take it because it would have to affect gravity, because that's another question that comes up, like what's gravity, which is something like this. And we all know that magnets affect metal. So, you take a magnet, you can pick up a paperclip with it. What if you had a magnet that could function on a molecular level, meaning it could grab everything from wood to skin to water? Once you had a device like that, you could control the oceans very, very easily, including the tides, and which was another question. I know there's a whole bunch of questions that people have, but no. Does the moon control the tides? No, it does not. It is controlled from down below. The moon is a whole other thing, which hopefully, I don't know if we have time, maybe we'll get into it later. The moon is a fascinating object. It is one of the dead giveaways to why we are not living on a globe.
Okay, and we will get into that a little bit later. I do want to jump ahead because I have a caller who's been waiting for a while. I'm going to have you field this particular question, Mark, and then we're going to backtrack again. I know we're going to kind of jump around a little bit. Let's go to Charles in Indiana. Hi, Charles. How you doing?
Not too bad, brother.
Sorry to keep you on hold so long, but I know you have a question here about other planets and how they look from space.
I'm kind of into astrology a little bit, and 5 planets during the year are close enough to Earth to be visible not only by the eye, but if you have a good telescope like I have, when you see Venus, for example, it is circular. And why is that?
Okay. And before I answer that, are you into astrology or astronomy?
Astronomy.
Okay, good. Because I get that question every once in a while. It's like, aren't you killing astrology? I go, no, not at all. And the stars and everything they're still up there, but you're not killing anything. When it comes to astronomy, what I try to tell people is this: when you go to a planetarium, if anyone doesn't know what a planetarium is, although this crowd, if you ever watched Laser Floyd or something like that, you're probably on your back in a planetarium. But when you go in there, you see the stars and the planets. If you went in there with a pair of binoculars and you looked at Saturn, would the binoculars make it seem more real or less real? And the point, it's a rhetorical question. It doesn't matter what makes it, because you know you're in a planetarium and it's not real. The only difference here is this thing is so big that nobody's figured it out yet. So when you go up and you see Jupiter and Venus and Mars and Saturn, yes, they are lights in the sky. Are they 2D rendered? Are they 3D rendered? We don't know exactly. Nobody knows. In fact, the only people that have shown any detailed pictures of this is NASA, which is a whole other topic. But they're up there. No question. Why are they circular? I'll answer it this way. They're circular because one of the main points of this, and I don't mean what we've done down here to try to hide it. I mean the people that built this place. If you want to call it the divine, or if God subcontracted it out, or an advanced civilization, whatever you want to call it. Part of the design of this was to create the illusion that you were in an unlimited space. So creating the round planets and everything, the whole point was to hide the fence, because human beings really, really, really don't like being confined in any way, shape, or form. Even if it is the most beautiful jail or prison or whatever it is, the only thing we would care about if we actually found the edge or found the fence or found the bars is that. That's all. We would just obsess over it constantly. And so, yeah, creating the stars and the sun and the moon and the planets up there, just part of the grand illusion.
All right, Charles?
Then why a majority of the year are we able to track Venus?
Majority of the year are we able to track Venus. You can still track it. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying it's not a giant body that's thousands of miles wide. I'm saying that it's very, very small, but it's still, you can still track it. It's no different than anything else you've ever been in. I'll give you an example. Even though
you're not saying it doesn't exist.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying it's very, very small, which is why I'm saying I'm not killing astrology either for anyone that's out there and doing their own horoscope thing. The sky is a giant, massive, beautifully rendered clock system, but the stars are all yours. They're not billions of light years away or millions or whatever you want to call it. They're here. It's right here with us, and the planets are here with us too, and so is the sun and the moon. They're here for you.
Do you think all the other planets are flat as well then?
They don't have to be. They don't have to be flat, because how do I explain this? As long as you believe that they're round, it doesn't matter how they're displayed, because it's the illusion that's important. Like the old saying that is fake it till you make it. As long as we're buying into the whole space and outer space and solar system thing, yeah, they may be. Yeah, for your purposes, let's say they're three-dimensionally rendered images. But you're not landing anything on them. How's that for you? You could track them. You can. NASA can supposedly take pictures, although those are all fake. You can look at blurry images with your binoculars or telescope, but you're not going to it.
All right, Charles. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. We got to take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk to Mark a little bit. Well, we're going to backtrack a little bit. We went kind of cosmic there, and I'm saving cosmic for the last hour. But I want to work our way out. I want to talk about some more Earth systems, specifically time zones and night and day, and how all of that functions in a flat Earth, and why it's so hard to believe that the Earth isn't a globe in that particular system. Again, we'll tackle all that when we come back. You're listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. Crime Tuesday. And our guest is Mark Sargent. We're talking the Flat Earth Theory. Mark, we got about 5 minutes left here in this particular segment. And in that, I want to tackle, you'd mentioned the sun and the moon, and we're gonna start to put the focus back on the Earth here for a second. But I want to talk about the sun. You said the sun was about how far away?
Anywhere between about 1,000 and 3,000 miles, maybe. We're still trying to work out the angles, but I'll go with the popular consensus. Say 3,000 miles.
Okay, and you say it's probably about how far wide, or how big is it?
Between 30 and 50 miles, roughly.
Okay. Now, I have to ask the question,
yeah,
what powers the sun, and how are we getting our heat light to cover the entire world or even parts of the world? How do we decide what areas of the world get that sun's light and at what times?
Yeah, an excellent question. Because, from our conditioning, we all think the same thing, and that is that the sun is 93 million miles away, and it's really, really big. Then how in the world can you have time zones if it's inside a flat world? Because it would shine on everything all the time, and everyone would have daylight all the time. Because it is so much smaller, and it is also a directional light source, meaning we think that it's this giant ball that's lit in all directions. But in reality, if you look at it, from our model, it's more like a spotlight. So when it's over you, it looks like it's omnidirectional, but it's because you were told it was omnidirectional, that's shining its light in all directions. So it's really more of a spotlight pointing straight down. And if it's only 50 miles wide, as it's moving away from you, it's just moving away from you. It's not, the Earth isn't turning. The sun is just literally going away. It keeps continuing its circle, and you don't notice, anything different about it because, again, of the conditioning you've been told.
So the sun is rotating around the Earth. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is. From a technical standpoint, yes, it is. But it's rotating, around the Earth, but also above the Earth, which is a word you would never use normally. The geocentric model, when people don't know what geocentric is that the Earth is actually stationary and the sun is still as big as it is and it revolves around us. It's sort of like that, only much, much smaller.
Okay.
And the moon does the same thing.
How do we explain time zones then?
Well, because if it is only, let's say the sun is only 35, 50 miles wide, whatever it is, and it's a directional light source, then it's only shining on a part of the Earth at any given time. We've actually got physical models. You can look it up on my website if you get a chance. We've done computer models and actual physical models where if you shine a light source down from a top-down point of view, think of it like the yin-yang symbol where you have the sun and the moon, revolving around. Mm-hmm. If it's pointing straight down, it shines in a certain place, and then that sun, it dissipates because the light source just isn't there anymore, because the light isn't strong enough to carry that far, and it's directional. So at that point, it acts no different than what it would be if, the standard model applied.
So I have to ask this then. Is the sun as mechanically controlled as the Earth would be in some of the Earth functions? Is it one of those things almost like on a timer, it rotates around the cake plate?
Yeah, the sun is extremely mechanical in that sense. Now, what powers it? Is it a form of fission or fusion or whatever it is? I don't know. I mean, Eric Dollard, a very interesting man, says it's just a transformer. And actually, he's a funny guy because he's big into electricity. He says it's really like it's getting its power from somewhere else, like it's a light bulb, although he's not a flat earther. So I thought that was very, very interesting. But yeah, it's mechanical. Same thing. It is not organic.
Interesting. Okay. I tell you what, we're going to start to wrap up this particular segment. We're coming up to the top of the hour. Again, flat earth theory is our topic tonight. We're getting a little more in depth with it and how things work according to Mark's. It's not just Mark's flat earth theory, but the flat earth theory in general. And we're comparing it to the globe model. And I know people have questions out there. Give us a call, 651-989-5855. In the next hour, we're going to start to talk a little bit about space and the stars that we were mentioning before, and the moon. And we're going to get into those subjects and how they relate in this flat earth theory. We know how we've been taught in school, but we want to find out more about how things work in this flat earth theory. That's all coming up in the next hour. Our guest is Mark Sargent. You can check out his website during the break, enclosedworld.com. Once again, enclosedworld.com. Stay tuned. More flat earth theory is coming right here on the best in paranormal talk radio, Darkness Radio. It's hour 3 of the best in paranormal talk radio, Darkness Radio. I'm Tim Dennis. Over there is JJ producing, and we're filling in for Dave Schrader, who's back tomorrow night for True Crime Tuesday. I want to remind people before we get back into our topic this hour, which is the flat earth theory about the IWI Independent Wrestling International. I should know. It's my group.
I think you're supposed to pronounce it like
the IWI, the International Wrestling Federation.
Independent Wrestling International.
The Independent Wrestling International.
Why do you sound like Macho Man when you do that?
I think that's how you're supposed to say it.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something, JJ. Cup of coffee. Oh, yeah. Cup of coffee. But coming up this Saturday, February 13th. Now, you may be saying to yourself and to me, Tim, you say, why you're calling yourself Tim, I have no idea. You may be saying, but that's Valentine's Day weekend. Here's the plan. You take your sweetie out on the 14th, on Sunday, because it's still a day off for everybody, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
On the 13th, you bring the gal, you bring the kids, you bring whoever out to IWI at the Mounds Theater.
Right.
Because it is a family-friendly environment.
That's true.
We've got plenty of entertainment for you. The Luchas are going to be in attendance. We'll have a Lucha Libre match this month. We'll also, all three of our titles will be on the line. The heavyweight title, the U.S. Championship, and the tag team championships are all on the line. That's the 13th. If you sit in VIP, there's some goodies as well. The VIP tickets are available at moundstheater.org. You can also get discount general admission tickets at moundstheater.org, so it pays to go over to moundstheater.org and check out IWI for this month and where we'll be throughout the rest of the spring into summer. So be sure to go to Mounds Theater. It's spelled with an R-E because we're not savages, JJ.
No.
Moundstheatra.org. Be sure to come on out and see myself and the rest of the IWI stars coming up Saturday, February 13th. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Because nothing says family functionality like a chair to the face.
It did in my family.
Oh.
Just saying, there's a reason I behave.
Cool. Hey, quick before we jump in, I just want to thank everyone for the calls that we got. I did hear from Ben and Josh and Jeff. Josh from Ohio and Jeff from Alabama. We had a high influx of calls, and we're trying to work them in as much as we can. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for the response. And Mark, you're right on point when you say people get polarized about this sort of thing.
They absolutely do. And by the way, 651-989-5855 is the number if you have a question you want to ask our guest, Mark Sargent. Once again, 651-989-5855 is the number. Mark, we're going to move now to more spacely, stately things that are bigger than us, bigger than our world. When we had you on Thursday, I know you had claimed, and I'm gonna paint this with a broad brush, and then we're gonna break it down from there. You had claimed things like the moon landing, footage from NASA, and these different things were faked, and that we basically are looking, for lack of a better term, we're looking at dioramas in the sky. Would you say that when we're talking about planets?
Yeah. What I try to tell people is, I'll preface it with this, which is, this is easier to bring it this way, and that is for anyone out there that's still, pulling their hair out and losing it and throwing things at the radio. When did somebody tell you that you were on a globe? And by that I mean it's not something you know for yourself. It was something, as opposed to everything else, like water is wet and fire burns and we drop something. That's what's called gravity. How do you know you're on a globe? Because it's something somebody told you, and generally it all points back to the same person or the same group, which is NASA, which was formed in 1958, which, again, NASA takes on a whole other aspect with this model, which is NASA, the whole reason they were created in 1958 was to hide the world that you live in from you, and that is everything from the first rocket launch to the moon landings to everything else. And if you think I'm kidding, you gotta come back with this, because they say, well, no, we saw the picture from NASA. It's like, yeah, one picture. There was literally one full sunlit disk picture of the Earth from space from 1972 until the middle of last year, which was 2015. There should be tens and tens of thousands of pictures. The moon landing, show me the picture of the Earth full blown in sunlight from the moon. Show me the Earth rotating on its axis. NASA, there was only one even composite rotation, which was the 1990 Galileo film, which NASA disavowed apparently some years ago. I still no reason why. There's no movies of any space vehicle from any country leaving the Earth's orbit and returning into the Earth orbit. Leaving and re-entry. There's supposed to be mountains and mountains and mountains of evidence from the NASA side. And when I started looking into it, which again was probably the most frustrating part for me, because I'm going, okay, well, I should be able to prove this in 2 seconds. There was just nothing there. And then you have to ask yourself why. In fact, there's an old, was it the Shakespeare saying, and that is, he doth protest too much. They went way out of their way to not show us things. It was, again, they milked that one picture. We all know it from Apollo 17, 1972, that shows the bottom part of Africa and all of Antarctica, which, again, no coincidence that you would show those two things because since it was an American space program, you didn't want to show the continental United States too much, and you want to show all of Antarctica. That was the big key. But I'm sorry, I completely lost where I was going.
Mark, I do want to throw this at you, though, Mark. You say there's never been pictures of re-entry to the Earth, yet we've been shown on many television broadcasts the space shuttle coming back into our atmosphere. And we've seen.
Yeah, you're right, but not from the space shuttle's point of view, is what I'm saying. No camera. There's so many different ways I could go with this. Let me throw another one at you first.
Okay.
This will kind of put it in perspective. And I don't take credit for a lot of this research because other people have found, again, the internet hive mind misses nothing. So when it was discovered that, for example, there is no external astronaut footage from any mission, any country, anywhere, no external apps, including the moon, astronaut footage where the astronaut takes their camera and just turns around 180 degrees where the camera's running. Never, ever happens. That is statistically impossible because it would have happened by accident. Not to mention that's the first thing you would do on the moon is take your camera, hit start, and then just turn around. It's like, look, we did a 360 on the moon. What a great panorama. Never happened. But it didn't happen on the space shuttle. Didn't happen on Skylab. It's not happening on the ISS right now. Interior footage, you can show some things here and there. Although the interior footage is really, really horrible. But no. And what you're saying, re-entry, from a distance. Mm-hmm. And you'll see rockets go up, but when they get to a certain point, and there's been cameras on rockets, but when they reach a certain point, they cut away. Inevitably, they cut away, and then they go to some computer animation. They say the rocket is now in this phase, and we're going to do such and such with it. Not to mention that there's no country that's ever put a man on the moon except for the United States. We go there in 1969, and then the Russians, who were supposedly hot on our heels, they just quit. I've never seen that in the history of sports. It's like, just pack it up, just shut it down. Yep, they got there first.
But at that particular point with the Soviet Union, you're talking about a nation that now we know didn't have as much money as they said they had. That the military-industrial complex didn't really build the country the way we thought it did. And they didn't really have the money for a space program. We couldn't have known that, even with the amount of spy activity we had going between the two countries. But wouldn't it make more sense that the Soviet Union would go, well, if the U.S. did it, we might as well not even bother throwing the money into it until we have it?
Really? With all the competition rhetoric they were throwing around, us especially, the American press, the Cold War, we all know that was real, supposedly. What we're saying is no. Not only was there no Cold War, but the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, and the Americans found out what the edge of the world was together. And that's when they started putting the high-altitude nuclear testing. And then they both, the space race and the Cold War, which went hand in hand, that was completely, faked from the beginning. And then once the United States developed their special effects techniques better than the Russians, that's why they gave up. It's like, the Americans, face it, we had way better directors and we had more money into it. Hollywood was, blossoming and turning into this wonderful stuff, and Stanley Kubrick had just released 2001: A Space Odyssey, the greatest and probably the greatest aged film of all time when it comes to special effects. So, and not only that, but we didn't go back, and nobody else bothered to go back. And from anywhere ever, the Chinese supposedly have a rover on the moon right now. It's been there since 2013. Most people don't know that. It's supposedly, we're just driving around and it's going, okay, go to the Sea of Tranquility, go up to the American flag and knock it down. Or at least, go right next to it and pop up a little Chinese flag. They never release any pictures. Anything of any consequence. They finally released one like a month ago. It shows nothing. It's about the same stuff that we did from the Apollo missions. No, the Apollo missions, but here's the big thing. When it comes to the moon missions, and I know, I'm sorry, in America, because there's a lot of people, national pride, you don't talk about the moon missions because, it's a sore subject. And that is, it answered a question for me that I've been looking at for like 10 years, which is, Why would you fake it? Why would you fake the moon missions? It didn't make any sense because, regardless of the flat Earth, it didn't make any sense because it's like, oh, fine, you got a flag there waving around, rah, rah, go team. It's not good enough. Millions and billions of dollars on this. But in the flat Earth model, it makes so much more sense because it changes it from a question really to a statement, and that is they didn't want to fake the moon mission. They had to. If you do not fake the moon mission, if you do not fake the entire Apollo program, eventually the corporate subcontractors to NASA at that point, and I mean, the big players like Lockheed Martin and Boeing, General Dynamics, those guys are going to get involved sooner or later because remember, there was no picture of the Earth from space. That's the big point I'm trying to get here. Up until 1972, there was not a single full disk picture of the Earth from space. Why not? Eventually, people are going to want this, and you're going to come back to them. You can't just hand them a picture and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, here's the Earth from space," because they're going to say, "Well, how did you take it?" You actually have to create a fake technology program like NASA in order to at least give the illusion of how you pulled off the picture. Even though the picture wasn't true, at least you could fake it and say, well, yeah, this rocket went up high enough and took the picture, even though they waited literally until Apollo 17. Why didn't they take it on Apollo 8 or Apollo 10 or 11 or any of the others previous? They literally waited until the last mission when they knew it was the last mission on the way back. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's the picture of the Earth from space. And then they milked it for 43 years.
But, Mark, you could argue, too, though, that, okay, if the Soviet Union or China or anybody else from the beginning of the space program to now really wanted to trump America, they should have their own fake space program going on because special effects, practical effects, whatever, if you want to talk about a space race, a technology race could happen at the same time to try and build their own fake worlds or say, well, you went to the moon, we're going to Saturn, and here's our pictures from Saturn.
Well,
why not pursue it that way if you're a foreign nation?
Well, you can, but there's only so far you can go because NASA was the originator. NASA was the one, and all the other programs that are involved here, they're all following NASA's lead. They know full well. They're all blueprinted from NASA and the Soviet Union to a lesser degree. Everything has to go through NASA. Despite what everyone says, oh, we've got our own space program here and there. No, everything has to go through there. And more specifically in a bureau which nobody's even heard about called the ATS, the Aeronautical and Transportation Safety Bureau. I only found out about them because I was talking to one of the competition of SpaceX and Virgin Galactic. It's an outfit out of California called Interorbital. And I was asking him, I was going, okay, when you said, because I suspected as much, I was going, okay, if you're sending up stuff, even satellites, eventually somebody's going to have to take over the telemetry and knock whatever rock is out of the sky and then simulate the telemetry, via the ground, the old Loran system. And I said, does it go through NASA? And they go, no, you have to file all your plans through the ATS. And you have to do it 9-10 months in advance, and you have to give them every last detail about what you're doing, which makes perfect sense. At that point, nobody on the ground knows any different. You build the rocket, you build the package, you send it up there, and then at a certain point, NASA takes over telemetry. And then feeds you all the data they want. They had plenty of time to set it up, and then the rocket splashes down in an ocean somewhere, and nobody's the wiser. It's brilliant.
Mark, let's take a couple of phone calls before we go any further because I want to get deeper into this topic, but there's some callers on the line who actually are going to lead me there a little bit. Let's go to Mike in Woodbury. Mike, good evening. What question did you have for our guest, Mark Sargent?
Yeah, I had a question about the, like the high school science teachers who sent cameras up in weather balloons and you could see the curvature of the Earth, or even the Red Bull where they did the space jump and you could see the curvature of the Earth.
Perfect. Actually, that's excellent. Actually, it's funny because Neil deGrasse Tyson actually mentioned that the other day, and that is anything that you see when it goes up in a weather balloon, because we've seen both. You're absolutely right. The weather balloons are cheap nowadays, and you can send some of these up. Most of them are going to use GoPro cameras, and by that, it's going to use a fisheye lens. If you don't know what a fisheye lens is, it's a peephole lens in your door. When you look out the peephole in your door, you know your hallway isn't curved, but the peephole lens makes it look curved. It's standard practice when you're sending anything up atmospherically because you want to get a more wide-angle view of the terrain. But there are several weather balloons that go up that have just regular standard lens, and they show it perfectly flat. In fact, the Red Bull thing, which got a lot of media attention, mainstream media attention, don't think that was an accident, shows a severe curve. In fact, such a severe curve that if you look at it, it's like going, okay, well, apparently the Earth revolved, most of the curvature of the Earth is covered by Arizona. It makes the Earth seem like it's less than even 1,000 miles wide, which in fact it's actually 8,000 miles wide and 25,000 miles around. So, but the second part of this, which Neil deGrasse Tyson addressed, is no weather balloon can get up high enough, and this is both our point and their point. No weather balloon can get up high enough to see any curve at all, because weather balloons cap out about 120, 130,000 feet. Even at that ratio, you would not be able to see a side-to-side curve at all. It doesn't matter if you're a flat earther or a non-flat earther. You should not see any curve at all. It's still going to look flat. Now, does it looking flat prove a flat Earth? No, it doesn't. But it puts into question every NASA photo or anything else, like the Red Bull thing, that shows an exaggerated curve, because that exaggerated curve should not be there.
Right. I understand the exaggerated curve of the Red Bull. That I was, I knew that it was, like you said, the fish hole or the fisheye lens.
Yep.
But I've seen some, 2 kids from Brooklyn sent up one, and it was just an old 1980s camcorder.
Yeah.
And you could see, yes, it looked flat, but I even took a ruler and held it up to the screen, and I've got a flat screen computer, and you could see just a slight curve.
Yeah.
I'm not talking something major, just, maybe like a millimeter from both ends.
No, I hear you. And I answer that with Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote, and that is, whatever you're seeing there is lens-based, because he's saying, and I absolutely agree with him, I agree with science in this case, and that is, you'd have to go up, because remember, 120,000 feet, that's what he was, 25 miles roughly. He goes, you'd have to get up 300 miles, even to have anything even detectable, even along those edges you're talking about, which would be multiple times farther than that. So whatever you're seeing in a weather balloon, it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't prove our point necessarily. All it does is it proves that most of the mainstream stuff is out there is super exaggerated, because most people aren't as smart as you. They see any curve at all, regardless of how exaggerated it is, and they say, oh, well, there's the curvature of the Earth. So that's all I can tell you.
That answer your question, Mike?
Yep.
Right.
I also had one other thing I just wanted to quick mention to you.
Okay.
About your flight plans, flight in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
I found a nonstop flight from Buenos Aires, Argentina, to Auckland, New Zealand.
Nonstop. Yep. Is it Qantas?
I don't remember who it was from, but it was nonstop.
Got it.
And going from Sydney, Australia to, Johannesburg, South Africa?
Johannesburg, yeah.
Nonstop.
Yep, absolutely right. There will be a handful, and I had to make a second clue just because of what he just mentioned there. Because initially I said, look, you go try to find nonstops, you're going to find zero, almost none. And then I had all these emails coming back. No, I found, there's something like 5 nonstop flights in the entire Southern Hemisphere. That didn't seem to bother anybody for whatever reason. And that's when I looked into the GPS system after that. So my answer to you is absolutely great. You found a nonstop flight. Try to track it one day, and you will find that the plane disappears. It drops off of GPS entirely as soon as it gets over water. And that is impossible, because it is a global positioning system. And people say, well, it's gaps. They didn't have that much money. It's like, well, no, the GPS is a United States Department of Defense program. Supposedly 24 satellites monitoring at all times. It's not like a partial positioning system or a land-based positioning system. It's global. There's no dead spots. The DoD would want total coverage, and that there isn't. The biggest 3 oceans in the world below the equator aren't covered.
All right. Thanks for the phone call, Mike. We appreciate it. And you bring up an interesting point, too. You will find some nonstop flights out there. And you brought up Qantas. Qantas has some of the largest airliners out there with more fuel capacity than other airliners that are out there. So, yeah, you will find some nonstop flights out there.
Oh, yeah. You'll find it, but you can't prove the route. That's where I did clue 9, because once you try tracking the plane, it gets to a certain point that it literally just blinks away. And then it shows up an hour before touchdown, and there's the plane again. It's like, okay, how did it get there? You can't prove it.
And if we have a pilot that's out there listening right now, I'd be interested to find out what your explanation is of that. You can give us a call at 651-989-5855. Let's take another phone call here, Mark. Let's go to Sip in Maplewood. You were talking about satellites, and Sip has a question about satellites. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Okay, Tim, hold on to your wool pants.
All right.
I'm going to blow you out of the water with this one.
Okay.
So as a kid, we would always look up, at the sky when we were at a drive-in movie theater, and we'd see these satellites going back and forth.
Yep.
Now, if we live on a flat Earth, obviously they'd be going to a certain point and have to stop, turn around, and come back the other direction.
Yep.
So it just seems to me that if there was some sort of mechanical, drive of that, it seems completely impossible.
You're absolutely right. And now I get to blow you out of the water because this is going to get pretty weird and pretty mind-bending. But who told you those things that were flying around the sky were satellites? Same guys.
Well, actually, if you look at footage from the International Space Station, which is a partnership with Russia, Canada, Japan, Europe, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the United Kingdom, they have video footage of satellites and also of the Earth rotating on its axis. So
the full
in
Earth?
order for this to be some kind of worldwide, global conspiracy, they would all have to be in partnership with NASA. Just to conspire
at the highest level,
thing.
yes, but not as many people as you might think would have to be involved. But
I'm pretty sure that each continent has their own footage and their own coverage of major events happening on the International Space Station.
Sure.
You can think on that one for a little while, but here's the other thing I have to ask, okay? On a simpler level, it's something I deal with. Do you know what the Coriolis effect is?
Of course.
Okay. Can you describe how that has an effect on a sniper's bullet after 1,000 yards?
It doesn't. And I've got
it does, because when I'm aiming west or east, I have to compensate with about 6 inches, and not to get overly complicated with mathematics, but that 6 inches is to compensate for the Earth's gravitational pull and spin.
Gravitational pull,
mathematically proven.
Not the spinning of the Earth.
If a 1,000-yard shot is missed, I'm in trouble.
I've interviewed a United States Marine Corps sniper instructor. He instructed for 3 years. And not only that, who are the other guys I got? They all said the same thing. I got artillery guys. Let's see. Artillery radar operator, worked out of Afghanistan. Another one out of Fallujah. A United States Navy missile instructor. They were all firing way longer than a mile. In fact, the missile instructor was shooting upwards of 60 miles. And he was all saying the same thing. He's going, one, we couldn't paint a target at 60 miles. It's not possible if there is a curvature to the Earth. But the second one is there's no Coriolis effect. There's no ballistic accounting for anything. Because it wouldn't just be just east-west.
Well, that blows my mind, seeing how I have to take it into account and have done that mathematics. But let's focus on the space station again. So the International Space Station, is everybody in league together? I mean, all those continents, are they all on this global conspiracy that you're
at the highest level? Yes, but only, got to remember, nowadays it's not like the Apollo astronauts when they were the only game in town. Nowadays, especially with the Americans, all you have to do is make them sign disclosure agreements, and they don't even have clearance to know why they're faking it. It's one thing to put somebody up there, in a DC-10, simulating zero gravity in khakis and socks and polo shirts. But just telling them they have to fake something, but telling them why they're faking it, that's a whole other thing. So,
I mean, obviously somebody of your intellect would obviously know that most conspiracies are driven for, the prevention of public embarrassment or for financial gain. So what conspiracy driven towards?
Why hide it?
Why did some person decide to say, well, let's just go with this for a great conspiracy?
So is the question why to hide the flat Earth?
Why would we spend so much financially and so much time and effort to something that probably doesn't matter that much?
Oh, yeah. I get that question probably at least once a week. And you're just not thinking big enough in this case. And that is, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you still get to go to your crappy job in the morning and you have to deal with your kids and your wife and all this stuff. That doesn't change until the day that everybody knows it. And then it changes a huge amount. Not only would academics be completely overturned, all the sciences would be backpedaling, but you've also have to deal with the big resurgence in religion. And I mean the 5 big religions that control 80% of the population. But not only that,
hasn't Catholicism and the Vatican and Catholic Church already come out with an announcement stating that they do believe in extraterrestrial life now?
Well, they said that it's not that they believed in it. They just said that they wouldn't have a problem with it if aliens showed up.
Well, I think that's pretty huge to say, wouldn't you? If all of a sudden they're not going to try to deny or condemn any knowledge of that?
Well, it's an interesting story that they brought up, but yeah, they're prepping for something like this. In fact, I'll take it one step further because you brought up a good point, and that is, I don't think by any stretch this was something that you could keep secret forever, especially once the technology reached a certain point. By that, I mean high-speed internet and social media and
Sir Richard Branson with the privatized space.
Oh,
well, we got into that on Thursday a little bit.
Is he in on it, too?
Richard probably was told at some point, because look at the delays they've run into. And look
so somebody who has nothing to lose and has their own island chain and actually likes to go against government and butt heads decide to go along with
well, he's got a lot
to be kind of a rule breaker to me.
No, you got anyone that's got that much money to lose. It's almost a no-brainer for
well,
anyone.
I put him up there with supervillain wealth.
Sip, Sip, I'm up against a break. I got to let you go. Thank you for your phone call. We'll get a little bit into that in the last half of the program here. And Sip, I should preface it by, if you want to see some of the answers, we're kind of going over old ground here. Mark did clarify about privatization of space and the in SpaceX, Richard Branson, et cetera, on Thursday's show. So check out that online, TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com, keyword darkness, and you could check out that Thursday show that we had with Mark and get those answers. Mark, when we come back, let's tackle more about space. In particular, since our last talk, I did a little bit of research about astronauts dying from cancer, and I think the results might surprise you a little bit. We'll hit you with that when we come back. We're talking flat Earth theory here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. This is Darkness Radio. Bit about the B.O.B. Neil deGrasse Tyson feud, the flat Earth versus the globe, and
he does give credit. It's titled as featuring Neil deGrasse.
Well, I'm sure there's a sample in there.
There is, yes.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of name drop in there. Our guest tonight is Mark Sargent. We're talking the flat Earth theory. Mark, I got a couple more people lined up on the phone that want to ask some general questions. Then I want to talk to you a little bit about the Van Allen belts and radiation. Let's go to Luke in Minneapolis. Luke is going to ask a question eventually I was going to get to, which has to do with lunar eclipses. Hi, Luke.
Hello.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi. Yeah, I just had one quick question. I was just curious about lunar eclipses and how we have never seen a flat line across the moon during a lunar eclipse.
Yeah, excellent question. The lunar eclipses, in fact, the one I try to go with is, the blood moon question, which is, the line is one thing, but it's like if they're on a flat world, there is no Earth between the sun and the moon, so how can the moon turn blood red? Because there's nothing there, and by that I mean the moon is just completely artificial, and everything that you see there is a display system. And if you think I'm kidding, and I got to throw the moonlight test in here because it's so easy, and anyone can test this is listening, and that is the moonlight you see is a cold light. And I don't mean it's colder at night. I mean it's generating some sort of refrigerated light. If you think I'm kidding, get a point-and-click digital thermometer, point it on the ground during, a half moon or better. Full moon is probably the best. Point it on the ground in the moonlight. It'll read, say, 50 degrees. We'll say Fahrenheit, right? 50 degrees Fahrenheit. If you point it in the shade of the moon, it's 60 degrees. It's 10 degrees warmer. That's impossible because it's the opposite of sunlight. If it's 100 degrees in the sun, it's 90 degrees in the shade. We all know the shade is cooler. Then why is the shade warmer in the moonlight? It's because the moon is generating its own light. It's completely self-illuminated, and if it's self-illuminated, then what has science been telling us about that? It's been reflecting the sun's light, and some of that radiation is coming down. It's in fact, some tests that we've seen is 12 and a half degrees cooler. It doesn't make any sense unless the moon is artificial. No less than a Death Star you saw in Star Wars. It is artificially illuminated, and if it's artificially illuminated, what the heck were those pictures that supposedly astronauts were on? That dull gray, ashy surface didn't look like it was glowing to me. So hopefully that'll answer your question in a roundabout way.
All right, thanks for the phone call, Luke. We appreciate it. I did have a listener who hit me up on Facebook and had an answer for that particular why the moonlight would be You said moonlight was cooler than the shade, correct? Than the...
Well, there was cooler in the shade. It is
right.
Cooler in the shade. I'd love to hear this.
His explanation is, as we know, with the sun shining down on the Earth, that the Earth retains some of that warmth depending on what time of night it is. Of course, if you pointed a digital thermometer up towards the moon, you would get a cooler temperature or an air temperature than you would from the ground because the ground would retain some of that heat from during the day.
Yeah, not bad. That's actually not bad. But one of the tests that I watched, in fact, it was done by a guy I know over in England. He used copper plates. He didn't even use the ground. So he had 3 copper plates, and this is where it gets really cool. So copper plate 1, copper plate 2, copper plate 3. Copper plate 1 is directly in the moonlight. You point and click on that, it's 50 degrees. Copper plate 2 is in the shade. You click on that, it's 60 degrees. Now, copper plate 3, that's the interesting one because I proposed this. I was the first one to propose this. I said, if you take a magnifying glass to the sun, you can start a fire with it. Everybody knows that, right? What happens if you take a magnifying glass to the moon, though? Does the light get warmer or does it actually get colder? And I'll be darned if it didn't get several degrees colder. And so it was amplifying cold light. And if you think that's impossible, no, we can do this now. It's called a cold laser. It's very expensive and nobody sees them. Major universities have them. But we can generate cold light now. But the question is, why is the moon doing it? Don't tell me it's transmuting the sun's rays. That's the equivalent of taking a sun lamp, bouncing it off a wall in your house, and on the other side, you're actually cooling vegetables with it. It can't happen. It doesn't work that way.
Okay. I got Jeff from Alabama on the phone. Speaking of experiments and lasers, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Hi, Tim. Hi, Mark. I just have a couple of questions for you. First of all, I didn't even know there were people that still thought the world was flat until last Thursday, so I haven't had that long to look into it. But the few videos I did watch on YouTube, one of the things I saw was why the Earth appears inverted on the northern hemisphere, the moon appears inverted when you view it from the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere.
Perfect. Okay, is that the question?
That's one of them, yes, sir.
Okay, do you want me to answer that one first?
Yeah, please.
That's an excellent one, and that is, okay, if you're in a planetarium, because there's going to be some technologies that some people aren't aware of, but if you're in software, like I was for many years, it's called, look it up if you get a chance, it's called an instance, which is the realization of an object, which means if you go into a planetarium, if it's big enough, you're on one side, your friend's on the other side, you're talking to each other via cell phone. He says, hey, I'm looking at the belt of Orion. And you say, oh, yeah, I'm looking at the belt of Orion, too. Now, you both think, because of what we're taught, you're thinking you're looking at both the exact same belt of Orion. But in actuality, you're looking at completely different belts of Orion that look more or less identical, but they're laid out in terms of region. Because you could say, oh, yeah, the middle star in mine is green. And you say, no, the middle star is red. And you guys would both be right because you're looking at completely separate instances of it. You're right. With the moon's orientation, the moon in the northern hemisphere is going to look different in the southern hemisphere because of the projection system. Got to treat. I know it's tough for people, but you are in a giant planetarium. That's right. All I can describe. It's just thousands of miles wide. So anything you see in the sky. So go ahead with your next one.
Okay. Well, I did on that point. I did see the model, and what it appeared to look like to me were that the sun and the moon actually rotate opposite each other, and they take the same path around and around the flat Earth.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough that I live on the southern coast of Alabama, so I get to see moonsets and sunsets all the time. And when I look into the horizon and the moon, it doesn't come in. It goes away and the horizon cuts it exactly in half until it's gone, the sun.
Yeah.
Theoretically, with your model, you would think that it would just pop into view. You'd see the edge of it and then it would be there. But that's neither here nor there. But the other illustration that I saw, you were talking about taking advantage of people being more or less dumb whenever they see the Red Bull guy and the curvature of the Earth. Well, one of the illustrations I saw was that there were some 30,000 satellites in space, and why aren't they hitting each other?
Exactly.
Well, okay, well, let me tell you, the picture I saw showed the Earth. Just say that, it showed the Earth, the entire disk, and 30,000 satellites, but these satellites were huge. Like 5 of the satellites, or maybe 6, would cover the entire illustration of the Earth. I would say that it would be the same reason that we get billions of people on the planet, but I'm standing here now and I don't even see another human. I'm standing outside.
No, I totally hear you.
It seems like to me that a lot of the evidence that I saw is taking advantage of, people being dumb and looking at it and saying, oh, there's 30,000 satellites, right? But it's so huge. I mean, if you said there were 30 billion satellites, I might think that they would hit each other, but...
Yeah. I'll explain my satellite thing with this.
Okay.
Because I went for years, 5-6 years, and I still have them now. I went up because a British guy told me, he goes, you want to see something interesting? He goes, grab some night vision binoculars and start looking at the sky, because it's way different than what you think. And I started looking at it, and the first day I was going, holy smokes, there's a lot of satellites up there, right? And I thought, well, of course, because there's a lot of satellites we can't see with our naked eye. That's very true, right? You can't see them. But then a lot of these satellites started doing ballistic motions, which I've never seen before, and that is, slowing down, stopping, making left-hand turns, right-hand turns, going, straight up, increasing speed. And then I started thinking, I was going, wait, what exactly am I looking at up there? Because, and then, multiples flying in formation. And so what I tried to tell people was like, look, the last guy that called, or not the last guy, but previous, satellites are not what you think they are. There are lights flying up there. Yes, we can see them, but I don't think they're us. Not by any stretch of the imagination. I think they're other, either older civilizations or part of the maintenance team or the superintendents that are running this place, because, satellites don't make any sense to me, and I think every satellite transmission at this point is being run by the old Loran ground system, which has been in effect, since the 60s.
All right, Jeff, we want to thank you for the phone call. We're running up against the break. When we come back, I've got a couple of really important questions I got to ask Mark about space, and I got to bring up the astronaut fatality thing with him.
I know. You keep wanting to.
I know, and I'm going to get to it here in this next segment. We're talking to Mark Sargent, Flat Earth Theory, here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. This is Darkness Radio. Mark Sargent, we're talking Flat Earth Theory. Mark, the last time we talked on Thursday, we were talking about why... you had, I shouldn't say why, you had stated that NASA had said we don't go back to the moon because of the radiation in the Van Allen belts. That particular time we had discussed, and you had said there are only 2 types of metals that block that type of radiation. One is gold, the other is lead. And I said, well, maybe they're looking for a lighter shielding that would take that radiation out. At that particular point, you had mentioned that you didn't think there was any astronauts out there that had died of radiation or died of cancer. I went back and
okay, I know. So go ahead and throw the stats at me. I know you're waiting to do this.
Well, I'm just proving a point. I'm not being, and there's no animosity when it comes to this.
No, it's okay.
I'm just saying. So it's listed here through Mercury, through Skylab first. You have some unusual deaths, but I'm going to rule those out. Okay. But just of cancer alone, you've got Alan Shepard, who died from leukemia. You have Donald Deke Slayton, who died of a brain tumor. Okay, you have John Swigert of Apollo 13 that died of cancer. Now, when you go to space shuttle deaths, you also have some astronauts there that had died from cancer as well. You've got G. David Lowe, who died from colon cancer. You've got Steve Nagel, who died from cancer. You have Sally Ride, who died from pancreatic cancer. Yeah. And then you have one from the International Space Station, Frank Caldero, who died of a brain tumor. That would now, ruling out genetics, if we don't take a look at genetics of these particular astronauts, there have been many, and if you look at the list of astronauts that have passed away and the different ailments, there's a lot of astronauts getting sick.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not a bad list. Was anyone on that list? I didn't hear it mentioned. Was anyone on that list for part of the Apollo program?
Yes. Let me look here. It was. Alan Shepard was Mercury 3 and Apollo 14. Deke Slayton was the Mercury program. No flights on that, but the Apollo-Soyuz program. And John Swigert was on Apollo 13.
All right. Okay. So, and then that one didn't land. Okay. So, but let me clarify, just for you, because I know we're right out of time. and that is cancer is one thing, but getting radiation poisoning almost full well. If you get radiation poisoning, it's not going to take decades. It's not even going to take years. You're going to get it really quick, and you're going to drop really, really fast. So what I mean is, if Van Allen radiation belts are super dangerous, then you would have expected, at least in the early ones, say Apollo 8, not 9, because supposedly they didn't leave, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, that those guys were going to catch something, a round trip. They were going to catch some, be heavily irradiated and, either die from radiation poisoning right away, or the cancer would have been brought on pretty quick, no different than Hiroshima or Nagasaki victims, that sort of thing. Not only that, but let's throw in the capsule. You got to remember, the capsule should have been just bathed in radiation to the point where I don't even know if I would have risked scuba divers coming up to that thing, let alone, this thing would have been completely had to be decontaminated before it hit the Smithsonian. But before they go to the next thing, I got to mention, anyone wants to look this up, because this is going to take way too long anyway. Look up the Orion trial by fire video. That's on the NASA website right now, that was published, that was put out as a television spot put out in October of 2014, and listen very carefully to how they're describing the Van Allen radiation belts, because they don't want to send anyone through them even now. They're going to do unmanned stuff now. They're just kicking the can down the road. We're not even supposed to do first manned one's not even supposed to be till like 2023. Come on. The Mars program is indefinitely, postponed. It's never going to happen. You can't do it. You cannot fake the Mars program at this point, because the internet would find out the flaws.
I have to throw this last question out to you. We got about 2 minutes, a minute and a half, 2 minutes on this question. And the question is this. Space and technology and scientists keep pushing the boundary. You push the boundary with Cern. You push the boundary with giant powered telescopes to look at dimensions far away, solar systems far away. They're naming planets and stars. Why are we doing all this? Why are we trying to prove the Big Bang and potentially tear apart our own Earth with that technology if it's not provable? Or why would we continue the facade if it's a facade?
Okay, two-part question. I'll do it as quick as I can, and that is
sure.
And so many stories have been released from NASA. It used to be like once a month, then it was once a week. Now it's almost every single day. And the Flat Earth movement is arrogant in that regard, because we think that we're causing this. And I actually believe it, because every story that you see there that's out in space, whether it's the face on Mars, the hexagon on Saturn, there's Pluto, the Mars rover, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what the story is out there, because it's all got its own subtext, which is, it doesn't matter if you believe in the face of Mars or not. It's that you are referencing it from a globe. It's like, that face might be real. I'm on a globe. That thing on Saturn, I'm on a globe. Rover, Pluto, I'm on a globe. It just goes back and forth. It's all to reinforce that you're on a globe, because if you even think about it, all you're doing is reinforcing the model which they've told you since you were 6 years old. When it comes to the technology, though, Cern is a very, very tricky thing, and I think part of Cern's technologies, I think it's part of a jailbreak scenario, which we've been trying to advance technology to see if we can bust out of this place. We couldn't do it with atomic weapons from 1958 to 1962. We couldn't do it with HAARP, with frequency, although a side benefit